Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Here we are back again with another discussion of the wild unknown tarot. And today I'm going to take you on a journey through the suit of wands. And as I have done the past couple of weeks, I'm going to do a reading just to sort of set the tone. I don't know if any of you are following my Deck and Walk, the episode that I posted most recently on the three of wands. I really enjoyed those reflections, and so today I'm going to continue to focus on the three of wands, such a beautiful card in this deck, and just see where that card lies and speak to its energy. It is such a beautiful container for the magic of the energy of the suit of wands. And so welcome to all of you. And I also want to say thank you. Thank you, because I have had some wonderful reflections after the fact on certain cards with some of you, and I really do appreciate the comments post live stream. Welcome, Mary Beth and Donna. This is another deck than the one I'm going to be working with when we're looking at the cards. This is a first edition. Of the backs look a little bit different. And so where would you expect the Three of Wands to be fully supported in the energy of fire? The sun is the ruler of this deck, and the sun in conjunction with Mars is such a vital energy, a really important energy, I feel, for starting off spring and to regain that sense of vitality that sometimes the lethargy of... Welcome to you, Lydianne. Namaste. Sometimes that lethargy of winter can be really hard to overcome. So let's just see if it is indeed here in this pile. And I don't know why we have a card upside down, but there we do. Empress is here. And the Wheel of Fortune. Don't you just love that? That'll be next week. Pentacles. The sun is here, and it's here in the pile of fire. So let's just do a reading around that. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit for you. Lovely card on the bottom of the pile, don't you think, to have the Ace of Pentacles here? What seed are you planting? And do you have an opportunity to plant that over the next few days? Now, those of you that follow the moon cycles in terms of planting, I feel a little reticent to actually plant seeds this day, even though it is a glorious day, and I feel like we probably have had our last frost because the moon is waning. And ideally, we are planting after the new moon, right? So when the moon is waxing is the ideal time for planting. However, there's something about this seed, so I may metaphorically be planting some seeds, maybe even physically. I think this is a great card to be at the bottom of the pile here. And look at all of that energy in the center. It just bursting, ready to plant. Hello, Dee. Welcome. So there we go. All right. So as I said, it's here. It's near the top. Oh, it is the top. It is the top card. So that's kind of lovely, don't you think? That the card that I wanted to reflect upon is at the top of the pile where it belongs, so to speak. Top of the pile of fire. It is deserving of our attention in every way. this beautiful container of sticks that has so skillfully been woven to create, I imagine, sort of a magical implement. And it reminds me of the feeling of creating a dream catcher. It reminds me of the feeling of just doing nature crafts. Nature crafts are so much fun to do, and I love it when that feeling of the connection of working with nature and the magic and mystery of nature shines through together. Okay, so I'm just going to go from the top of the pile and lay a couple cards on either side. And holy wow, wow. Okay, so we have two potent, we have the ruler of the Decan that right here, the sun card is here, and temperance is here. So temperance. This card has been one that I do watch other people's videos, and somebody was talking about this in a video I was watching this week, and temperance as the ruler, as the card that represents Sagittarius. And I've been giving this card so much thought. I'm doing another series on the Minkyate Tarot. And in that unique tarot, there the seven virtues are all represented. And it's given me an opportunity to really reflect on how I might shift, adapt my interpretation of the virtue cards that do appear in contemporary tarot decks or in the Tarot de Marseille. And it makes me smile, because there's so many beautiful layers here to temperance. Ruled by Jupiter, it is expansive, and it wants us to, continue to cultivate the faith and the trust in the magic. And the sun just shines so brilliantly on the other side of this. So if you have put your heart into an intention, continue to cultivate that in every way. There is something, I think I'm going to lose my voice today. Oh no. There is something healing, very healing about it's funny, sometimes I just have to use my hands to talk. It helps. There's something, this intention, the seed that you have planted, something you've been working on. And I feel like this goes back a little bit. You may have planted this. Maybe you planted it March 21st. Maybe you planted it January 1st. We have so many opportunities to plant new seeds with all the new years that have come along. So however you've been cultivating this intention for 2026 and beyond, there's a double layer of reason why you need this intention. And it feels like it is very much a part of your own healing. So, for example, if this is something to do with your business and a new aspect of your business that you want to grow and cultivate, what I'm saying here is that as part of that journey, there is also something very personal about your own healing and your own awakening, your own personal development. This feels so incredibly beautiful and fortunate and timely. And if you haven't done this, do it. Do it. Create an intention. Create something. And remember also that you can create something small to represent something big. So, for example, let's suppose you're able to go out into the garden today and you collect a couple of sticks, and who knows what you're going to make with them. And you create something really tiny, not too fancy, but there's an intention around it. And you can say to yourself, let these 3 sticks represent, something much bigger. And this doesn't have to be a physical creation. This can be the creation of a healing of a relationship, a new connection, any number of things. There is a rest. I feel like there's a lovely piece of poetry or something that fits here really nicely, and it has to do with rest and be content in knowing that the seed that you plant is nourishing you in every way and working at levels of healing that you cannot possibly understand. So indeed, have faith and trust. When we're working with the Suit of Wands, it is really important to cultivate trust. So when we're working with the energy of fire, we tend to get into the ego. The tendency is, let's go, let's do this. We think that we are responsible for everything. And so there's this a tendency to lean towards the ego. However, the highest frequency, and I'm talking chakra psychology here, the highest frequency of the energy of the solar plexus chakra is one of trust and to allow oneself to be guided. And I feel with the Daughter of Swords and the Four of Swords, remember swords also is the energy of the heart space in its elemental association. The Four of Swords also follows an expansion, a powerful expansion that might take some time to integrate. And these 2 sword cards, in a way, so if you go back old school tarot, where we talked about dignities and affinities, and we talked about fire and air being friendly, or swords and wands being friendly, I feel like these 2 particular sword cards remind us to maintain the container for, because in a way this 4 is a container as well too, the container of sacred space. And the Daughter of Swords is just quietly observant, like hold space for this to grow. Don't be impatient. Do not be impatient. Let this, have faith, have trust that this will cultivate and grow and expand exactly as it is meant to. Let me go to Lydianne's comments. The ace is interesting because we see straights of the wood. What do we call them in English? The concentric circles, like the wisdom of years of the tree cut. Yeah, it's a really beautiful ace of pentacles. Wow, the sword of this daughter and the wing of this temperance show the same direction. It's beautiful, isn't it? It really is. So, yeah, hold on to this. It's a lovely, lovely energy. Supported by the wisdom, the creativity, the strength. The Dharma, that is the, I have to put this deck away so I don't get my 2 decks mixed up. That is the power, the beauty of fire, of the element of fire. Leo, fixed fire. Temperance, mutable fire. Emperor, Aries, cardinal, fire. And judgment, primordial fire. So there are majors that connect to, in the classical sort of tarot golden dawn system, to each of the elements. Judgment for fire, hanged man for water, and fool for air, and world for earth. Earth plays a double role. So these are the majors of fire. And for some reason, I want to talk about 10 and 20. This is something that came to mind as I was sitting here and thinking about how I'm going to approach this today. I feel like I have not put a lot of energy into the majors of the elements that we've looked at so far, so I will come back in some way and try to bring this together. Maybe we'll look at this through planetary correspondences. I don't know. I'll see how it flows. So 10, right? 10 as the wheel, 10 as a card for this year. 10 is a card of understanding that change is, and change is a complete sentence. And that is a real challenge for a lot of people. It really is. Do I say thanks, Donna? I don't know. I just feel like I love tarot, and I love the expanding. The more you study, the more different directions you go, the more wonderful things that you learn and you can integrate into your practice. So 10 is this, and it's Jupiter, Golden Dawn ways, so Jupiter card, and Jupiter wants us to know our greatness, right? It wants us to know our greatness, to not waste that potential. And that means that we need to hug change, to be okay with it, to figure out how can I work with it instead of being sad about it. How can I work with it instead of feeling flustered by it? So for example, suppose you have a lovely sunny weekend and you plant your garden, and then the temperature drops and it gets really cold again. You know, these things happen, and we need to find the gift and the blessing in finding that, there's a curiosity, there's a, okay, that's odd, but can I mirror that instead of resisting it? And there's this beauty. This sun-moon relationship is so important to be. How do we be in both? And those of you that have taken on the some of the exercises in the tarot and the emotions class, I hope that you get to a place where you understand that being in both is the most beautiful place to be, so that your ruffles don't get feathered. There we go. There's a good one. Your feathers don't get ruffled so easily. So you can start to smile a little more and laugh at the universe. And Dee, I totally feel you. Sometimes it's just really, really hard. Really hard. And all we can do is make a cup of tea, and maybe there's a snifter of brandy that goes with it, and we just do our best to breathe. And sometimes all we can do is breathe. And if you can breathe, you're doing well. And if you find yourself shutting down and closing up, then that is a sign that, we need to reach out, phone a friend, so to speak. 10, double 10, double 10. Double 10 as, wow, okay, little change, big change. A little change, really big change. And if we want to even take that, now I know we're not doing pentacles today, boys and girls, but let's do this. Because I like this, right? We have little change, change, and wow, change. And you put your names on these 3 cards. These are the cards of, yep, the wheel is turning. The wheel is significantly turning. And in the double 10, this is a card that is turning for a change that is really going to shift our current paradigm, whatever that is. And I feel like I repeat myself a lot. I've been doing this for a while, but if you're not ready for this, and this card shows up in a reading, I feel like that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes it's the preparation for this double 10 that it takes a little bit of time. So you want to be looking to the cards that are before it, and maybe hold this card to the side and ask yourselves, okay, this feels a lot overwhelming. What can I do to prepare for this? Because I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I want everyone to know it's freedom. It's freedom. And it can take years to integrate. But if you allow it into your life, it'll begin to shift things in every way at a cellular level. And it's such a beautiful card of change. And so here we have the expansion of Jupiter, right? Jupiter. And here we have primordial fire. And it is, I think, cards we want to be really gentle with. And the key word for the 20th Arcanum can take on you can find other substitutes for that word. And if you want to think about it in terms of a classic tarot, such as the Tarot de Marseille, and we even get that sort of illustration in a Waite-Smith deck, it is an opportunity to wake up and see things in a new light. It's a very loud. Yeah, very, very well put, Dee. So thank you for those words. Okay, let's put 2 of Pentacles back. We will do Pentacles next week. Okay. So we had this card in the reading. So why the stork? And why is the baby burning? What is the stork? The stork has put the package down. I don't know how closely you've thought about this particular picture, but it feels like a bundle of fire. And in terms of the fire, this is an opportunity for, right, a new beginning. Temperance, Sagittarius, is ruled by Jupiter, like Pisces is in the classical 7-planet system. And so these are mutable signs of expansion. Knight of Wands is the primary court card here. And so think about temperance in terms of expanding. So this is one of the reasons why I've never written a book, because I can never quite find the words. It's because they're always changing. Expanding into my greatness. But the synonym that is synonymous with my wellness and my healing and my spiritual expansion. Son of Wands is part of this story, picking up the wand in the last decan of Scorpio, sort of drying up the heaviness of Scorpio and saying, okay, let's take what we have been made aware of, and let's do something with this. We need to get out of the muck, and this energy needs to start to flow. And it's exciting. This is pretty exciting that this bundle is symbolically ready for impregnation. It is fertilized. You can see the water drops there. And there's this lovely contrast of blue. There's greens here. There's heart space colors and oranges, fire and water. A symbol of new life, new opportunities. And so when I see the Temperance card, I always think of the Marielle tiger. I think of moving through the muck, quite literally, the muck of Scorpio. And, this doesn't always happen in accordance with the seasons. These are situations that arise, but there's always this amazing connection to the tarot. And it's something that I've really learned over these years, is to trust in the wisdom and the mystery. And honest to God, I don't think that all tarot deck creators understand how the divine consciousness works in the background in the creation of decks. I feel just blown away sometimes, the stuff that I see in decks that the deck creators don't write about. This is the Temperance card from the Marielle Tarot, and I feel like this tiger. Now, Marielle uses a different astrological system. Question: can you apply other things that you know to decks that use a different system? Of course you can. You can do whatever you want with the cards. Just know your stuff, and just be consistent in how you work. And eventually all these beautiful things that you learn and know are going to weave together, because it's all connected. It's all connected. So if you're going to start studying Babylonian astrology because that's what Marie White talks about in Landscapes of the Abyss, go for it, because it's really cool what she does with this deck. But what I'm saying here is that if you look at that tiger emerging from the water, through the water, and that water is clear. some things become really clear. And now this fire, right, comes forth and we can start to build again. Now, if we think of temperance in terms of healing and wellness, like I said in the reading, hi Kim, always remember that there's different layers that we are working with simultaneously. Where are the fire cards? So this is where we are decanically, right? Aries. This is being recorded on the 4th day of April 2026, and I am doing another decan walk, and this is the second decan of Aries. And the Emperor and the Tower are cards that are throughout the Aries season. Mars is a very interesting card in the tarot, the planet in the tarot, in that it is the only planet that has an extra decan. Final decan of Pisces, first decan of Aries, and 4 more. So there's something time altering with the martial decans and the martial energy. This is an energy that really wants you to go for it. It really does. I feel as long as you cannot get too carried away, great things can come of all of the martial decans. And the first one in the astrological year is the 2. And I've talked about this at length the last couple of weeks, first decan episode. So the link is at the top of the chat if you want to go back and have a look at that, right? So you can look at that episode. And also in the 3 episode, I talk about the 2 and the 3. And it's funny, I should go back because I've done a lot of videos over the years, and to see what I said 5 years ago about the 2 and the 3 of Wands, because I did a comparison series many, many years ago. I'm not sure I want to hear that, but I have evolved as a tarot reader. And the other place, if you want some more information, other perspectives, if you get confused about the minors and the similarity of the minors, in this series, I talked a lot about the meanings of the cards as well. And that one's not so old, so it might feel more like the Sadhana of today. But she is ever changing. She really is. So this is the beginning of Aries season, the 2 of Wands and the 3 of Wands. This powerful, fiery initiation in a martial decan in a sign that is ruled by Mars, right? To get going, to find focus. Get focused, plant that seed, and then create a container for it to grow in. And if you create a beautiful container for it to grow in, I think the world is your oyster. And as I said, right, martial decan, and this is a solar decan. So we have a lot of fire happening here. A lot of fire. And so, of course, we must be careful. We must be careful about not overdoing it. If you can hear my dog, she's dreaming. Not overdoing it. So the care, so the focus and the intention is really important. And I feel like once we create this space, we need to give it a bit of time and allow Shakti Shiva in the background to do their thing. Yeah, kind of amazing. So those are the first couple of decans. And then it kind of gets confusing. So Four of Wands should be here somewhere. Should be here. So this is Aries, Two of Wands, Three of Wands, Four of Wands. Here it is. Four of Wands. So you can see that the energy expands beyond the container. And yet the container retains its shape in the center. There's a, that blue part of the fire is the hottest. You can look at this in lots of really interesting ways. And I suppose you could even speak to the, you want to call them deviations, I'm not sure. The little bits of the sticks that are going their own way. So despite the four being a four, it may need to adapt. There's a level of creative energy there. This is also a diamond, and the metaphor of the diamond is pretty important. And I think Kim Krans uses the diamond a lot in the circular deck. So I have done videos on the circular deck. It's in the playlist that is down below. The archetype deck. The diamond, and I think there's a couple diamonds in this deck as well too. And you want to think about the pressure, the energy that is required, right, for the diamond to become a diamond. And this is sort of an early stage of this. So there's that layer you could work with here. If you want to bring in the energy of Venus, because this is a Venusian decan, does that work in this tarot deck? Does it work? So this particular decan is ruled by Venus, and this is the Venusian card, the Empress card in this deck. Did that tree gift its branches to this creation? Whoa. Is it the Empress that provides the material for the structure? 4 Emperor, 3 Empress. The whole journey of studying 3 and 4 could take you years. It's really a fun thing. And then get into the Euclidean stuff, because that's takes it to another level. So maybe you want to think about that the potency of the fire that is in the background, the heat, the diamond, is supported in the foreground by the tree that gave the gift of the structure. So just mull that one over. I really like this deck, and I love thinking about this deck, and I love thinking about, okay, why do we dummy this down to the marriage decan? What does this have to do with marriage? And I think one thing is just reflecting on the gift of the divine feminine, the gift of the divine masculine. It's really important that we let that shine in the other. So even if we're talking about a same-sex couple, that one, I was going to say player. I mean, the tarot is like a stage. Let's call them a player. One player is going to have a dominant masculine energy. So how can we let that shine? How can we let that shine? And how can you, as the dominant feminine energy, provide the support that and provide the container for that fire to shine, and vice versa. Okay, I can see where you're going, D. And you know what? I feel like in this deck that a lot of people approach it like this, D. A lot of people, and there are some rather you know how some people find a what is the word? Scatological. I think that's the term. They find scatological associations to certain tarot cards, and then once that is said, you can never unsee it. And that sometimes can, it brings a layer of humor, and I think we need to have that in the tarot. So seeing a scratched cornea, and you could certainly dissect that and see what that makes you feel in terms of everything you know about the Four of Wands. Okay, let's go to fixed fire. I didn't talk about the Queen of Wands. I did talk a little bit about the Knight of Wands in terms of temperance. I never know how far to go with these things. Okay, so let's just Aries. So all those Aries cards. Mother of Wands is Martial, right? So she picks up her first decan in the last decan of Pisces, and then 2 and 3 of Wands. So we see the lovely combination of Mars and Sun in the background, and yet we see you're funny, D. I'm sure you're much more than that. We see the nurturing, the protection, the fierce protection of her babies. The fierce protection. She needs to create some heat around these eggs so that indeed they do hatch. And I think in the Color Me series, I might have colored the eggs blue. But just the eggs themselves are that water element that is essential to acknowledging, I feel, in all of the queens. And she also protects her wand here. She uses her wand as a level of energy. I don't know, I really like this Mother of Wands. And the way that the eggs are so prevalent here. We don't see eggs in another mother, I believe. So I think that is significant. We see a baby in the Pentacles. Let's just check this out, because I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. Right, yeah, there's no baby. And the Mother of Swords and the Mother of Cups. It's funny, I should... No, she's busy doing magic. Yeah, she's having a party of magic. So kind of interesting that the egg, right, the spring, is in the first mother, the Mother of Wands. Okay. So I'm going to leave these two out. I'm going to leave this one out. Okay, so there's lots of different associations, but if you are working with the 36 decans, then when we get to the fixed signs, both the daughters and the aces have their strongest energy over the fixed signs. So you can think about the daughters being very closely connected to the fathers in that way. I don't want to get into this right now because it is a huge discussion about kings in terms of fixed energy and knights in terms of mutable energy, and different systems of tarot. And the element, is the king the element of fire, or is the king the element of air? Just to know that when I'm working with the kings, I'm working with the tree of life, and on the tree of life, the kings are in the second sephra of Hokmah and are the element of fire. The queens are in the third sephra of Binah and are the element of water. The knights are the union of the queens, and the kings the element of air in the sixth sephra of Tiferet. And the pages, the princesses, are down here in Malkut and are the element of earth. And unless I am working with a deck that has declared something different, so when I'm working with the Crowley Tarot, I'm going to work with it as the Crowley Tarot intended. Yeah, really good question. So I have this, let's address this. So I have this background layer, right, of Golden Dawn, and then also I am deeply rooted in the yogic traditions. And fortunately, the yogic traditions fit beautifully. Okay, so let me go on. This might take me a minute to get there, but I'll get there. All right, so Shakti, Shiva, cup, blade, downward facing triangle, upward facing triangle. These two come together in Tiferet. They come together at Anahat chakra as the hexagonal symbol of the heart chakra. 6 points. Same as the number that is associated with the 6th sephra on the tree of life. 6. 6 as a place of union, a momentary place in the tree of life of peace and beauty. If we're talking about Anahat, Anahat is a higher frequency of love. It is the kind of love that the Dalai Lama talks about. It is unconditional. It's one of compassion. It is, it's a really high frequency. It's very hard to get here. Really hard to get here. And what I'm talking about is in the healing journey, in the physical body, we have the diaphragm that separates the solar plexus from the heart. And the journey in healing the fire to transcend the diaphragm, to land and find peace, and for Kundalini to reach the heart chakra doesn't happen in most people. We can get tastes of it, but to land there is a big, big journey. And so Donna's question is about, well, Kim Kranz is primarily a yogi, not a Golden Dawn person. However, the similarity and the correspondence of both of these in some ways do fit together very well. Thank you, Donna. And if you are well, let's simplify this. Let's suppose that you have found a fascination with, I'm just thinking of, what's it called? Oh, the Da Vinci Code. And that revelation about the painting and the chalice and the blade and the union of Mary and Jesus and all of that. There's just so many correspondences throughout history, traditions, various paradigms. So this is what I work with. And then the night is the product of the divine masculine and the divine feminine at the heart space. Air. So the element of the heart space is not water, it is air, which is the union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Now this gets a little confusing because if you have, I think I might have a book here. No, I put it away. If you have studied the tattvas, which are the elemental correspondences in the yogic psychology, tradition, philosophy, then the journey of the tattvas and the descension and ascension gets a little more complicated than that. However, it works. It works in the tarot. All right, so Leo the lion, holds the rose, the symbol of the divine feminine. Gently holds the rose. Our animal nature knows that it's in its best form when it allows, love that verb, in case you hadn't figured that one out, when it allows some softness to shine through. And we also have a representation here of dark and light, feminine and masculine. So kind of a nice card. And then Leo ruled by the sun. And, quite a interesting card to look at in terms of judgment and the doves, if they are doves, around the corners, the four corners of the sun card, the expansion of the energy of sun. This is a card I haven't really studied, to tell you the truth. Okay, daughters have their strongest energy in the fixed signs in the decanic system, and their energy is earth. And here there is a lot of beauty and creation. We see the budding of the wand. And if you look at that in terms of Malkut and manifest, so something is becoming manifest here, and the daughter has the ability to see that through. The prince would have had to gone down to impregnate her, but that's a whole other story. She then becomes the queen. But that's really not what we're talking about, are we? We're going to talk about 5, 6, and 7 of wands. I do have about a 45, about 45 videos course on this if you're interested. And there's a 40% discount right now. It's called Tarot Foundations 2. You can use the code. That is, you can check it out in the Deccan Walk series. I've linked and put the discount code for Tarot Foundations 2. And sorry for all the plugs today. It is my livelihood, though. 5, 6, 7 of Wands. So here we are in Leo and Saturn. So Saturn is a really interesting planet to look at. You can look at it Vedically if you want, in terms of understanding more about Kim Krans and the yogic associations. And there's a lot we can learn about Saturn. And in terms of tropical astrology as well too. So in the decans, we have 5 of Wands and 10 of Wands. They kind of have this conversation with each other about our relationship with Saturn and our relationship with boundaries. You know, are we more comfortable inside the wall? Are we wanting to break outside the wall? How do we feel? You know, what's our comfort with protection? These are all really important questions. And then we need to go to Binah, right? So Binah is a Sephira that is associated with Saturn, the third Sephira, which is the Queens. All of the Queens pick up a 10. They have a 10, a 2, and a 3. So this is the Queen of Pentacles, if you're following me. And so there's this double connection here with Saturn in its feminine aspect. And in the interpretation of tarot, you can also look at Saturn in terms of the father and all of the mythology around Saturn and Kronos. So we have a lot of different ways we can expand and find meaning in a tarot reading. Always go back to your question and let the cards respond to your question, right? Never in a million years am I going to say, this card means this, right? It can, but it also means about a billion other things. So here we have a 5, right? A 5. 5 is the number of Geburah, which is Mars, right? Fight, 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 fight. And this is fire, a firefight. And it is Saturn. So we have this conflict between Mars and Saturn. We have a conflict with our boundaries. We want to break out. We want to break out. Or we need to break out. And it can feel so discombobulating. You know, this card can feel like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I just doing this because I really like provoking a fight? This is kind of fun, actually. And sometimes it just feels like fun competition. So you, again, need to really look at your question. And just keep in mind that there's something going on in the tarot between the 5 and the 10 in this suit, with both of them being Saturn. In order to get here, there's some sort of I'm struggling for an adjective. Maybe out of character action that is being called for. So in Leo, we have Saturn and Jupiter. Expansion, right? Expansion and transformation. Jupiter. Change. 6, Tiferet, peace and beauty. Expanding into our peace and beauty. And then this is Mars too. So this is Mars by number. This is Mars by decan. Two of Wands is where we initiated this martial energy. 7 of Wands is where we realize it. And really the only way I can comment on that, so how I manage this is I have an intake form. I have a form that when I have a new tarot client, especially one that I know that I'm going to be reading for more than once, I look at their natal chart and I look at the cards associated with all of their planets, and I do look at the Uranus cards, and I do look at Pluto and Neptune peripherally. And if there are strong correspondences, then I definitely speak to them. But for the most part, I tend to just because I've worked with this so much, I really like this particular system. Yeah. So what I was saying here is that there's this energy is realized in the 7. I just thought of something else. You know what? This is black. Why is it black? Why is it black? Because black is feminine. And this is a 7, and 7s are Venus. Maybe, right? You could also look at it as the black sheep. But yeah, I think this is a great card. So why am I doing this few weeks of talking about this deck? Because you asked. You asked. And these are some things that I have found in different ways that I am working with this deck. I think something that's been really helpful. So the fixed energy. So this is fixed, stoic, stubborn Leo. Fixed, stoic, stubborn Leo. And yet we have quite a blessing in the central decan. In that, with that Jupiter energy there. And I think that it's really good for the Father of Wands, because the Father of Wands is going to pass the wand, so to speak, to the Knight, well, not this Knight, but the Knight of Pentacles. So fathers pass the torch to the Knight of a different suit, right? of the next sign in the 7. And so here, this is where the Knight of Pentacles picks up the torch and heads into Virgo. I love this stuff. I think it's really cool. All right, so here's the 10. This is Sag. We kind of looked at Sag already. And we have 9, which is lunar, and this is Saturn. So there's something really interesting going on here, because when we're okay, 9. We have a lot of, so this is the end, right? The end of the suit. This is Sag, end of the suit of fire. And it can get really overwhelming. And I don't know if we always have the strength to carry through to the end. But with the lunar and the Saturn energy here, I think it gives us something. It gives us it's a bit of a gift here in this feminine energy to take us through to the end. You can see the clearing in the distance, and I think we just really need to decide if we, again, right? So here's a boundary that we have to deal with in order to get through. And this is not an easy path. Right? It's kind of painful if you're walking barefoot. This is Mercury. I think something's, part of the, interesting, this is green. Why is this green? Okay, interesting that the just descriptor of swiftness for this particular decan is so prevalent. And we have Mercury as the ruler of this decan and 8 associated with Mercury in Hod. So there's a double Mercury association here. And I think that's what gives it its speed, because Mercury, it only takes 80 days. I think it's rotation, it's revolution. The chemical Mercury also has associations with the number 8, and everything about Mercury is fast. And when I think about this card, I can think about everything from quick healing, Mercury Asclepius, rod of Asclepius. I can think about quick movement, quick thought, decide quickly, move quickly. So you don't really know what the urgency is here. But I find it really quite funny that we have a card of urgency and then we have a card of deep reflection. I find this transition kind of difficult. And again, this is a doubly hit by the moon. 10s are in Malkut, and this is the home of the princesses. But we also have that pathway and the connection of the world card moving down towards here. And in Sagittarius, everything is amplified. Everything is doubly hit. This part of the chart, everything is of the decanic wheel. Everything gets hit doubly. It's more emphatic. Is this just saying, pay attention to me? Does this mean that urgency has something to do with the heart? Is Kim asking us to look at that? focus on the center. The other thing I'm wondering, so temperance, right? Ruled by Jupiter. And look at the connection between the Eight of Wands and the Wheel of Fortune. So this is possible that this is intentional. Is that helpful for you? Okay. All right, my friends, kind of a rather long chat today and lots of wandering around. I will bring all of the earth cards out next week and carry on with this for a few more weeks because I feel like we're not quite done. If you have particular questions or something I said just didn't make sense, then please come back and leave a comment below. I like following up between the weeks. Okay? Have a lovely rest of your weekend, and those of you that celebrate Easter, blessings for you in that celebration, gatherings with family and so forth. Take good care. Namaste. You're welcome, Lydia. Nice to see you.